This is a diagram on how I believe people learn and influence Valorant. Hi, my name is Ruse and welcome to my channel. This is going to be the first video of a series of videos I'm going to call Foundation. When a game is released and people play it competitively over time, a meta is established. Now, a meta is usually a big blanket term, but in this context, we'll use it to mean how people play the game. This can be categorized further by breaking it down into metas for maps, guns, and agents. So, how people use a Vandal, or how people play Ascent, is how we'll use it in this context. This meta then applies its influence on people and causes people to play the game a certain way. Now, this is not to be confused with a style of play, which can be categorized by things such as speed of play, or agents, or maps, or compositions of the sort. Instead, I want you to think of this. Think of AI, specifically a study that you can read here. And I'll put the link on the video, but more or less this is OpenAI, and what they did was invent AI bots that played hide and seek. And they would give these AI bots that were playing hide and seek a series of rules, and they would just let the bots play. And over time, the bots more or less played the game over and over, and they developed certain styles or behaviors. And as you can kind of see here in the video, the blue bot is the bot that is hiding, and the red bot is the one that is finding. The red bot picks up the box and finds a way to get over the walls that blue had set forth and kind of tried to protect itself in its hiding spot. When people play maps in competitive Valorant, something very similar goes on. You see, there is no user manual for Valorant. There's really no map strategy guides or anything of the sort. But you know what there is? There's an abundance of videos on YouTube. But I don't think that's where the majority of learning happens. I think learning happens in the game when a player tries something. If it's successful, they try it again. If something keeps working, it becomes your go-to play in the situation, whatever it may be. When something does not work, you completely abandon it. You get rid of it. You don't usually alter what you're doing. No, you completely try something different. I think this is a unique feature to tactical FPS genre. Due to the nature of the time to kill, the game can be very punishing. And if you make the wrong decision, you're dead. You're sidelined. You're forced to watch others have fun. And as a result, people tend to, side on the risk side of risk avoidance. That's avoiding things that are risky. Because if, they take the risk and it doesn't work out, they're just, people who are watching the game. I think risk avoidance has become more dramatic in the era of retake in Valorant, where the attacking team takes the spike site, and in response, the defense more or less gives up the site in order to amass a majority of players that are still alive to hit it all together at once. And what this does is more or less eliminate the defensive nature of the game and makes it more attack heavy. So how that usually plays out is that I'm on defense and I'm standing in a site with an alphabet letter, A or B, maybe C. You throw up some sort of utility at me, and depending on my risk acceptance level, I abandon the site or I stay a little while. Either way, the site is yours. Now you plant the spike and you go to your positions of advantage, or you play aggressively, and either way, the site is vacated. And now it's time for the defenders to come back to the site. And now that we're back in the site, the attackers are re-attacking the site. And it's this endless loop of kind of attacking and switching positions, and it all becomes a little crazy. These play out a million times, over a dozen or so maps in the Valorant game that we have. It's like watching a complicated dance play out, and it's rare for anyone to miss a beat. No one knows the dance steps, but everyone seems to be professional. These ebbs and flows are not taught to anyone. There's no teacher. This is just what is generally understood you're supposed to do, so people do it. And like the ocean, the changes in these conditions can be violent. An agent can be popular one day and nerfed the next by Riot. An agent can be completely unpopular on Tuesday, and because the streamer showed it to people and a new way of playing it on Wednesday, it becomes the new fad. It's all in constant change, and there's no real direction that anywhere it goes. This state leaves interesting openings for people who, more or less go against these trends, who are isolated from them, who don't, partake in the meta. We'll sort of kind of see these play out in the future in Valorant, where the community will completely forget an idea and it'll be rediscovered and reused in some novel way, and that person will be labeled a genius. And these things can happen with Riot as well, where they buff something and then something becomes new again. It more or less keeps the game fun. But the end state for us is an end state of theoretical dizziness, where it's hard to draw lines and take firm stances on ideas of what are always open to interpretation from endless supply of creativity among the masses. And a bigger problem than this is the fact that there are people participating in this meta or this competitive gaming that don't understand what they're doing. And that's not to blame them, but it's more or less to open your eyes to the idea that no one's teaching them anything. Like, they are you, but, months or years behind, just trying to learn as they go, trying to experience as much as they can in order to gain the experience, to learn the information, to be able to make the right calls. And, this can have a drastic effect on your ability and your team's ability to win. Since everyone has different expectations of what should be happening or what's going on around them, it just leads to chaos. And that leads to toxicity, right? Like, if I'm doing what I think is right and somehow you don't match to that, you're doing it wrong. And you need to do what's right, because in order to win, everyone has to do what's right. But unfortunately, we didn't learn from the same subject. There's no uniformity of ideas. Just what has worked successfully for each of us up until the point we're exposed to a meta. Now, people have tried to do these sort of videos in the past to create a foundation. I've bought strategy guides off of Amazon or gone to like Barnes and Nobles, if that's still around by the time you're watching this, and picked up these books on these topics, but they're never what you want them to be. Like the videos that promise you iron to radiant, they're missing the key ingredient. They're missing the why. Why does a pop flash matter? Why does it matter that we smoke things off? What is the grander picture that we're trying to achieve? And in this sense, like, this is the missing key feature for me, is the why. And the why is what weaves it all together. So I hope you'll join me on this journey as we kind of go through some topics that are usually not covered at a high level, and I'll try to paint you an overall picture of how you should be playing Valorant. And ultimately, in the end, provide you with a blueprint of developing your own style and your own way of seeing Valorant and, future tactical FPS games to come. So thank you for watching to the end of this video, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you for sticking around to the very end. One of the things that I wanted to do with these videos is put something at the end that kind of makes you want to go to the next video. So I want to introduce a concept that not many people have heard of in the Valorant community. And it's something that is really interesting because I think that it pairs well with more or less the video that you just watched. The concept is called functional fixedness. It's a cognitive bias that limits a person's ability to use an object in more ways than it is traditionally used and affects an individual's ability to innovate and be creative when solving challenges. Now imagine, I give you a candle, a box of thumbtacks, and some matches. And then what I tell you to do is I want you to attach the candle to the wall, and I want you to do it in a way where it doesn't drip the candle wax onto the floor. And so this was a study that was conducted. It's called the, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Dunker's candle problem, where people were asked to do that task. And it was really difficult. So if you want, you can pause the video and try to think of a way in order to achieve the goal of having the candle not fall on the floor. But let's go ahead and walk through the ideas and the traditional uses of each of these, right? So we've got some matches, and matches are what? Usually light fire with those, right? So that's kind of like how we would do that. So we'll go ahead and light the match, which will then, take that flame and put it to the candle, and that'll start like the liquidation of the wax. And then what do we do with like the thumbtacks? Well, usually when it comes to thumbtacks, I take paper and I stick a thumbtack through it, and that sticks it to the wall. So that takes care of the two beginning tasks, right, of lighting the candle and sticking it to the wall. But our third issue is that, well, if we do it that way, if we use it in the traditional sense, we just poke a hole through the candle and attach it to the wall, we can't achieve the goal, which is to keep the wax from, falling off the candle and hitting the floor. So what I'm going to show you is like the innovative way in which you can use these ordinary objects to achieve the goal of keeping the wax from falling on the floor. And what they did was they took the box, which held the tacks, put the candle inside of it, and that way that the box would then catch all the wax from falling on the floor, right? And usually the response from this is that, oh, that's not fair. I didn't know that I could use the box. And, there'll be all sorts of excuses. I think what's really interesting is that we're having a conversation about Deadlock. And Deadlock is a sentinel. Now, we've had sentinels before, Cypher and Killjoy. And there's a certain way that you play those characters. And because you've played those characters for such a long time, that behavior influences your thoughts on using Deadlock. So everyone is trying to use Deadlock in the same way that we use KJ or that we use Cypher. And it's just not the case. Like, you can't use her. So I'm going to show you a bit of kind of like an idea. And I'm not going to expose it in this video, but in the next video, we're going to go ahead and show you how you can use Deadlock in a new and innovative way that doesn't match the play styles that you might be stuck to. So join me in the next video. I hope to see you there, and we'll pick up from here.